Hey, hi, welcome. You know, one of the more difficult, challenging things that we will ever do as health and safety professionals, or people that are tasked with health and safety functions in the workplace, is investigating an unsafe work refusal. It's tough. It deals with, you have a difference in perception between different people. You have possibly an unfamiliarity with what's going on, so it becomes a very difficult situation. And in this video, what I want to do is talk about how you, as the safety professional, would go about investigating an unsafe work refusal. But to add a different bit of a twist and to have a bit more fun, let's talk about how you might go about investigating a situation where a vaccinated person decides they don't want to work with an unvaccinated person because it's unsafe.
What did he say?
Yeah, I have a different idea on fun, don't I? Realistically, if you are one of those people that your workplace already has a vaccine mandate, either by government mandate or oversight, or your employers put one in, this likely won't apply to you. But if you are in that workplace and you still have situations where there's workers refusing unsafe work, stick around because the principles are the same. Very first and foremost, we have to figure out exactly what unsafe work is. Drill down to the basics, put it into its simplest form. Unsafe work is basically work that's taking place or in the process of being done where there's hazards that are not controlled present. So uncontrolled hazards are present that may have the potential of harm to the workers performing that work. This means it could be anything. It could be from particulate and irrespirable air. It could be the tools, the equipment, the machinery the worker's working with. It could be the very tasks that they're performing. Or it could be, in this case, some sort of a danger or hazard caused by another worker. So in this situation, let's give it a hypothetical. Let's say that Rob and Karen are two co-workers and their supervisor has come to you and he says Rob doesn't want to work with Karen because he thinks she's not vaccinated. So a few things, a few steps that you're going to have to follow in drawing conclusions here. Number one, personal bias and preconceived notions. Fold those up. Open up your desk drawer, put them in your desk drawer. Don't worry, you can go get them later, you'll likely want them. If you bring personal bias and preconceived notions to an investigation, it's not going to be done right, you're going to be very ineffective. The next thing that you want to do is take a statement from the worker in question that's refusing the unsafe work. A worker does not have to give a written statement or anything before they refuse unsafe work. I've made other videos about it and I'll leave links in the description. Basically, the process is they stop the work that they're doing, see their supervisor, and their supervisor investigates and corrects any of the unsafe work or puts the worker back to work. The case where you get called in as often as the supervisor is over their head. In this case, they've decided it's beyond them. So take a statement from the worker. In this case, I would sit down and interview Rob. And I would ask him about all of the things that he considers that makes the situation unsafe. I'd make sure I had a full understanding of it before I proceeded. Now that statement does a couple of things. Number one, it provides you with that springboard to decide if the investigation has merit. Let's just say, put everything aside, and Rob and Karen work in a warehouse, a very large warehouse. And they're at opposite ends of the warehouse and they don't see each other during the day. Do we have to go any further? Likely not. However, in this case, Rob and Karen both work side by side in a cubicle environment in the accounting department. Fair enough, looks like you still need to investigate. So what you're going to do is after you've taken the statement and Rob signed off on it, the very next thing you're going to do is you're going to contact someone from the Health and Safety Committee, one of the worker representatives, and you're going to ask them to accompany you to that area where Rob and Karen work. Once you get there, you're going to observe the work being done. You're going to look for these uncontrolled hazards or any other uncontrolled hazards that are present. If work is being done, you're going to make sure that the controls are there for any hazards that have been previously established are in place and being used correctly. So it doesn't really matter if it's an accounting department or a manufacturing area. You want to look for the uncontrolled hazards and any controls that are supposed to be being used and make sure they're used properly and being implemented. The next thing that you want to do is you're likely going to have to observe all of the tasks that are being done, and you may need to take photos, take measurements, make sketches. You have to gather data, just like any other investigation. And now once you've done all of that, you have to go back to your own private workspace, your neutral area, so that you can start to draw some conclusions between the statement and the data that you gathered. And how you do this, you're going to follow some of the guidance from different areas. In this case, because it has something to do with the plague, you're going to consider any mandates that are in place from the Chief Medical Officer of Health or your equivalent in your jurisdiction, and any existing public health orders. If they're applicable, you're going to apply them. The next thing you're going to look at is the authority having jurisdiction and the workplace legislation or any guidance from the authority having jurisdiction. In my case, I'm in Alberta, Canada, so I would look at what Alberta OHS has in place. Then you're going to consult your existing workplace policies and your own health and safety program. Using all of those, you're going to draw some conclusions and then form some corrective actions. If you find that there's corrective actions that are needed, you're going to apply them in the priority using the hierarchy of controls. You're going to consider elimination and substitution. Likely in this case, those aren't options. So the next thing, are there engineering controls that you can use? Can you move the workstations further apart? Can you use higher barriers on either side of the workers? Can you look at the HVAC and decide if the air supply and filtering is enough? Is there anything else that you can do to separate the workers and their preconceived hazard? Then beyond that, you need to look at some administrative controls. In this case, what I would likely do is see if we can vary their shifts at all so they don't have to work together. Or if possible, can we make sure that lunch and coffee breaks are separate, or workers can take their lunch and coffee breaks at their desk? Is there something in place that instructs the workers that, well, masks are a requirement, that they're wearing their masks when they're up and away from their desk? We don't want to make it too much of some sort of dystopian workplace environment, because that's just going to have its own issues on that. We want to make sure that it's practicable and it can be implemented, and the workers are going to use whatever you do and implement whatever you say. After you've done all of that, you need to make sure that you forward copies of your findings, the incident investigation, or pardon me, the unsafe work refusal investigation, to the worker in question, the supervisor, and of course the health and safety committee. They should be copied on all of these things. So in short, what I would do is follow these steps with any unsafe work refusal. I'd immediately put away my preconceived notions, my personal biases. I don't want to prejudice anything. I would take a statement from the worker, get a written statement, get them to sign off on it so that it shows merit to the investigation and it can demonstrate the due diligence that I've followed. Should it need to go further, such as arbitration or the authority having jurisdiction investigates, then I would go to the actual work site. I would have a look at the works being done. I would make sure that there's no uncontrolled hazards present. If there was, I'd stop the work and make sure that there's controls put in place. I would also have a look at any of the existing controls and make sure that they're being utilized. I would take measurements, I would take photos, make sketches, gather all of the data so that I could reach some good, clear conclusions. I would then go back to my workspace and I would apply all of the guidance and direction that I have that I can use, because it's facts that you need to use, not your feelings and not your opinions, facts. So I would look at what the Chief Medical Officer of Health has in place. I would look at any existing public health orders. I would use the legislation from the authority having jurisdiction and any other publication and guidance that they've provided. Of course, my own workplace policies and my health and safety program. I would use all of those to draw some conclusions, then use the hierarchy of controls to consider any corrective action, and then barring all of that, can I look at, is there a way that I could recommend an accommodation for the worker? In this case, Rob. Can Rob work from home if he's that uncomfortable and it's bothering him that much? And then submit everything to the supervisor, the worker making the complaint, and the health and safety committee. After that, my job's pretty much done. And just like this video, I want to thank each and every one of you that's taken the time to subscribe to the channel and to ding that bell so that you get notified of content. I also really want to ask you, until we see each other again, and I really hope we do, don't just think about safety, don't just talk about safety, but be a safety leader, be an influencer and do safety, provoke it wherever you are. Take care. Bye for now.